All right, welcome back to the Voice of the Movement. Already on episode 4 here. Today I'm joined by Christian rapper, Christian artist, 180, 180 Ministries, Covenant Award winning. Super excited. If you don't know me, you know I'm a huge rap fan, avid rap fan. I love rap. Always have, always will. Um, First things first, of course, check out touchedbyaddiction.ca if you want to join the movement. We just got the new drip in. We just got the new women's shirts, some new hats are on the way. So send them a DM if you want to pre-order those. Thank you for giving us your time, and thank you for joining us today. I appreciate it.
Oh man, 100%. This is my pleasure, man. Like as soon as I saw you guys were doing the podcast, I was like, I got to get on that. Like I 100% believe in what y'all are doing, man. I think this is so cool, man. So yeah, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we're so glad to have you. So you said you went to the program, but what was life like for you before addiction?
Yeah. My life before addiction was I guess well, normal to me. I grew up in a two-sided family. So on one side, on my mother's side of the family, um, they were church-going believers. That was the thing, you know. In fact, if you wanted to live in my grandmother's house, you had to go to church on Sunday. You know what I mean? So that was one side, and then on the other side, my grandmother, she had 9 sons, just boys, right? And all of them got in some form of trouble, but they loved each other. You know what I mean? So like on both sides of my life, the love was strong. So yeah, that was my child. I saw a lot of things I shouldn't have seen. I saw a lot of, I grew up in a predominantly Black neighborhood in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And yeah, and like I said, I saw some things I shouldn't have seen. Lots of drugs in my community, lots of gang activity in my community. My godfather was murdered when I was a young kid. Yeah, so it's hard because I know that isn't what a normal childhood's supposed to look like, but that was normal for me. So yeah, like people ask me, do you have a bad childhood? Well, no, man, I know I was loved, and now that I'm grown and know what I know about life, probably shouldn't have seen some of the things I saw, but I mean, I also am not one of those people that have regrets because, I believe that everything in my life played a part in God bringing me to where I am right now. So it's a great question, but it's a hard question to answer because life for me before addiction was normal, right? So
Yeah, I know what you mean for sure. Like the stuff that God had to bring us through to get us here is painful stuff, but it's where we had to be, like what we had to go through to get here, right? And
yeah, I mean, I always say that, I don't believe that God wants us to go through all of the crap that we go through, man. But since we're gonna choose to do it anyway, a lot of times, He's gonna make a message out of it if we give him the opportunity. So
yeah, that speaks to like just the transformative power of God, right? To take our mess and turn it into a message, right?
amen.
And it's beautiful. So how did you kind of go from having this quote unquote normal to you childhood to being in addiction, and what was kind of like a day in the life of the peak of your addiction like for you?
Yeah. So I guess the transition was pretty easy considering drugs were always around. Um, and growing up, I got involved in selling drugs, and spent a lot of my time out on street corners and everything else. And it's funny because I I use that term all the time, but it's really not. But just bear with me. I always say it's funny, but then I hear myself say it, and I'm like, no, it ain't. But anyway, um, yeah, I it was always around. And then as I like before I got saved and everything else, before I was even an addict, um, I was a rapper, and so secular rap really played a major part on me in terms of the lifestyle, right? Like I really grew up believing that if I wanted to ever move out of my neighborhood, I either had to shoot a jump shot or sell crack. That's what I believed it. And so, but I also knew that somebody was making a lot of money telling me that. So I was like, well, why don't I try that way? You know? So anyway, I got involved in music, and that's kind of really where my use of hard drugs started. I always smoked marijuana. I always smoked weed, but that was when hard drugs kicked in, was because, you know, I did I did some big shows, man. And so, you know, you go to those after parties and stuff like that, and just everything's available, and you know, you don't have to have money. You know, you're the artist. So wherever you are, they're trying their best to kind of um entertain you, or you know, give you what they think you want, or whatever, right? So everything's available um in that lifestyle. And so that's where I first kind of got introduced to using hard drugs. um and then, like, the addiction part happened because, I'll say it this way: the addiction part happened because I didn't respect the drugs like I should have. I didn't give them enough respect. So I was going to after parties, after shows and stuff like that, and then getting on the bus or whatever and going to do the next show because I got to sleep all day, right? Um, but once real life kicked in and I wasn't able to do those things, you know, I thought I could just casually use cocaine like I used to, because, you know, obviously, like I said, I just didn't have the respect for it that you know, you should have, you know. And like, I'm one of those people that, like, straight up, man, like, and some people take it wrong when I say this, but like, I respect the enemy, man. Like, I respect them. I don't like them, I don't support them, but I have enough respect for him to know that I should be prepared and be watching my back, because he's good at what he does. You know what I mean? And that was, I feel like that's the same way that addiction got a hold of me, was because I didn't respect it. And so, I started working a job, and I ended up using with a buddy at work. And like, it was one night, man, one night, and then I was hooked, like completely locked in. And an average day, like a typical day for me, was, you know, a lot of isolation, um, you know, a lot of hiding out. By the time I was fully addicted, man, I was married, so, you know, trying to keep it from my wife. Um, like, it was even so bad that I actually like, got a broken down van and put it in my driveway and told my wife I was getting it so my son and I could work on it. But really, it's just where I went to use. Um, so yeah, that was like a typical day, and that was every day. I mean, for the most part, for some of the time, my wife might say it different, but for some of the time, I felt like I was functioning. You know what I mean? I still went to work. But, you know, the moment I was off, and really I was only working to pay off what I was fronting all week, you know. Um, so yeah, that was the typical day. So all day at work, I'd smoke weed, and then when I get off work, it'd be back to the cocaine.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like when you're saying that, you know, that one night was just enough to get you hooked, right? Like I had a very similar experience. I won my first line ever. We were shooting dice with for my friend's birthday. I got a line, and you know, 6 months later, I'm staring out the blinds and you know,
Right,
smoking rock. And so
right.
I get what you mean. How quickly it can, you know, go from just one night or just you know, recreational sort of use
Yeah,
to just being your life.
yeah.
So, um, what was the journey from this being your life to, you know, sobriety? When did you realize that, you know, something needs to change? I can't keep living this way.
I mean, I've always been blessed with people around me that actually care about me, man. Like, that's just, no matter what part of my story I ever tell, that part always plays in. Like, the people in my life um care about me, man. And I don't, like, I know I don't deserve it most of the time. Like, I tell my wife all the time, I know I'm hard to be married to. Um, but at the same time, like, these people love me, and I don't know what it is about me, but God is, whatever it is, God has used it and made sure that there was, you know, there's always care for me. So um I had a suicide. So first of all, my wife actually approached me on it, and you know, put me in a position where I was going to lose my family if I, you know, didn't address the addiction. And so I tr- you know, I told her, of course I'll quit. You know what I mean? Like I'm a family person, man. I love my family. I just became a grandfather, man. Like, I mean, I love my family. And so when that conversation happened, when that came up, it really got my attention. And I told her, yeah, absolutely, I'll quit. And I actually did, man. It's real. I did quit, but I tried to quit in my own strength. You know what I mean? I didn't really seek out programs. I went into a 28-day program. Like it wasn't even, I didn't stay overnight or anything. Like it was 28 days. You show up at 8, you leave at lunch, you come back at 1, stay till 4. Um, and so yeah, I went to that, but that was all I did. And then the depression hit because, like, you know, I had this couple of years of, or at least this year, this solid hard year of being fully immersed in my drug. And then all of a sudden I quit, and I had nothing to kind of help me deal with those emotions, or those, you know, the mental part that comes with that, like all of that stuff. I just wasn't built for it. And so my wife actually, when that happened, I had attempted I'd attempted suicide. And while I was in the hospital, a buddy of mine came to me and told me about the program, actually. And yeah, I mean, for me, I was totally against it at first. You know, like I went through the program in 2010 when the manual was that thick. You know, and the dress code was crazy. Like, you know what I mean? You had to wear chapel dress 4 days a week. I mean, and like they were like, yeah, no hats and no this. And I was just like, yo, these people are crazy. Like this is nuts. This is not for me. I knew that. And so my grandmother and my mother and my close friends. So a buddy of mine though had already gone through it. And you know, he had found success, and you know, and got clean, and was, you know, living a new life, you know, and was loving the Lord, and all of that. And I guess let me back up just a little bit. Before all of that, I had already accepted the Lord, so I thought. Um, I was going to church with a good friend again, and you know, and I knew that was something that I wanted for me. You know, I didn't know how. I was playing the game with it, I guess. Um, but I'm not a stupid guy, so I was understanding a lot of things. You know what I mean? But was still not ready to kind of fully commit. I had just seen some stuff, and even to this day, man, when people ask me, you know, why do I believe like I do, and why is my music so directly about God? Um, I like if we got to get into a memory verse competition or something like that, you'll beat me every time. You know what I mean? Like my answer is always, man, I've just seen some stuff, you know, and that's why I believe like I do. That's why I trust him like I do. And um, so anyway, a buddy of mine, and the reason for that is like one of the things I had seen is a guy that used to travel with me and do the music on the road when we were partying. In fact, he was my hype man, and you're a hip hop lover, so you know that what that role entails. You know what I mean? And he was the hype man, and so like he wasn't just a hype man on stage. We would actually, and I kid you not, we would actually send him to after parties first to get those hyped up too before we went. You know what I mean? And so this guy, all of a sudden, we were away. We were actually in St. John, New Brunswick, and he went home to Dartmouth. And in that weekend, he was in a basement. And it's funny, I won't tell my wife's testimony, but he was actually in my wife's basement, and they were smoking weed. And the way he told me the story, he said he just heard someone say, "Put it out," and he said like he told me, he said, man, like I looked around the room and I knew nobody in the room said it. He said so. He got saved that weekend, man. 2 days. He was away from us for 2 days and he got saved. You know what I mean? Like totally changed his life. Went to church that Sunday. Boom, new man. Totally sold out for it. Came back to where we were in St. John. And all of a sudden, he just wouldn't do any of the things we were doing anymore. And I'm telling you, this is a 48-hour turn, right? Like 48 hours. He comes back. He doesn't do any of the things that we did. And so I asked him about it. And one of the things I'll always love about this brother is he never like attacked me with the gospel. Like he didn't throw it in my face or anything like that. He didn't hit me over the head with no Bibles or none of that. He was just different and he let me ask. And once I asked, his answer was, well, you asked, So you got to listen, sit down. And so I did, man. And he told me what happened. And so I asked him, like, yo, man, and I'm being 100% real with you. I asked him, like, yo, what's it going to take for you to just stop, right, this conversation? He's like, when we get home, come to church with me. And so I did. And so I went to church that Sunday, and I felt like the pastor was talking my whole life. You know what I mean? You know the experience, man. Like, a lot of us, God has reached a lot of people in this way, you know? And I felt like the pastor was actually just picking apart my life in pieces, you know what I mean? And like, to the point where I actually accused my boy of telling him stuff about me before I went. Like, I was mad. Like, you know the rules, man. You don't put my business to nobody else like that. Like, that's not cool. I was upset. And then I met the pastor afterwards, man, and I shook his hand, and I just remember shaking his hand and feeling like that was the first time I actually felt like a genuine, this guy is just real. You know what I mean? And yeah, so whatever it was at that time, I wanted it. And so so yeah, fast forwarding back to where we were, that same friend was the one that came to the hospital and, talked to me about our other friend who had already done the program, and started sharing with me, and, and how this is the right thing for you to do. And so my grandmother, at first, she's the matriarch of the family, still is, man. God bless her, man. She's the boss still, big mama, right? She's still in charge. And she kind of took my side at first, like, all right, well, if this ain't for you, it ain't for you, And then she heard some stuff about the program, and it kind of changed her mind. And so I ended up applying because one of my buddies tricked me into it, set me up real good. So he came to pick me up. So we were going for a coffee, and we start driving, and we go past Tim Hortons. Then we go past a Robin's Donuts, and I'm like, Robin's ain't even good, but still, man, like, they got coffee. Where are we going? We ended up at his mother's house, man, and he had the actual application open online there, and was like, you want to drive home, bro? You know what you got to do. So anyway, man, I applied to the program and went in, and I think while being locked up in the mental hospital for the suicide attempt, man, was when it really was like, yo, I can't beat this thing, but I need to, like, I've never been a crazy, over the top, prideful guy. I am super confident. I ain't gonna front on you. I'm not gonna be fake humble with you. You know what I mean? But I was never a super prideful guy, but to kill myself, nah, that didn't even make sense. Like, and even after it happened, I couldn't make sense of it. Like, yo, what are you doing? You know what I mean? And so I knew that there was something more powerful than me, that was winning, and it needed to be fixed.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I was just thinking as you were talking, like, how people come to me and they say, how do you know what you believe in is real? I'm at work, I'm pushing carts in the grocery store, and they come up to me and they say, like, how do you know what's real? Like, why do you believe this much? I say, because I've seen it, right? I felt it. I know it's real. And I've tried to live apart from God. And I've seen where it gets me. It gets me to places like mental hospitals too, strapped down to a bed and somebody's putting a needle in my butt, right? And so um it's hard to explain, right? Like, I've seen it, I know it, I've lived it, and it's so powerful, like, to have a platform like this where we can, reach people, and a platform like yours through music, because music makes people feel something, right? Um, so after you went through the program and graduated, I believe,
Yep.
what has life been like for you, and how did you make the change and get into the Christian rap game?
Yeah. So when I graduated the program, I immediately knew what I was going to do. You're familiar with the contracts and all of that we do every month and all of that stuff. And my life coach was phenomenal. In fact, he was actually the director in London for a while there, Mark Pope. And Mark was my coach during the program. And Mark did something for me that was actually so super cool. So he knew I loved hip hop music. He knew I loved the right rap music. He knew all of that. And so for every month, when I got my paraphrase part of the contract, where I had to paraphrase a portion of scripture, he would basically give me the scripture and allow me to write music out of it. So when I finished the program, pretty much I had an album written, and it was called The Chronicles. I'll never forget it. It's back there on the wall. It's the first one on the corner, man. And I had that one. I had that one written, and it was cool, like the connection that I had with the center, because like the guy who's the director in Memram Cook now, on the East Coast, he actually designed my first 3 album covers. You know what I mean? Like, he helped me set up Twitter. I didn't even know what Twitter was at the time, man. He helped me set that up, and and helped me launch this thing. And so yeah, I mean, life since, it's been it's I don't even know how to word it. It's been up and down, but God's been a constant. You know what I mean? And so there's always that rock, man. There's always that. I get bogged down sometimes with the business of music. I'm not a big fan of the business of music. And people ask me all the time, and I tell them honestly, like, Christian music is not exempt from the business of music. In fact, it can be a little worse. I always tell people, at least in the street, they'll stab you in the back. I mean, stab you in the chest. Right? You know what I mean? So anyway, that life since has been really, really interesting, man, and learning that, that I don't have to, to succumb to addictions and other things, because, God is a rock, man, and he's there, and he's always got my back, and I know that. Um, so yeah, I mean, as far as getting into the music thing, like, at first I was just putting out some free albums, man, free mixtapes, and I got a call from to me, he's the Canadian Lecrae, man. I got a call from Fresh IE, who's based out of Winnipeg, and that's my brother now. Like, we're tight, talk every week, like, we're on every one of each other's albums since we met. You know what I mean? Like, we're close. Um, but when I talked to him, he humbled me quick, right? Because what happened was, while I was in the program, I saw a magazine and he was on the cover. I think it was a Promise Keepers magazine or something. And he was on the cover of it. And I just was like, yo, that'd be a cool person to meet. So this will make you laugh. This is a funny story. So I was like, that'd be a cool person to meet. So after the program, I'm out of the program for a couple of years now. And then I get a message, a direct message on Twitter. It says, yo, it's Fresh IE, man. Send me your number. I'm like, and I was really close with the guys I did the program with. Like, we're still brothers today, right? So I was like, which one of these fools thought it would be funny to send me this message? Because he obviously heard me say it'd be cool to meet this guy and blah, 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 right? Which one of these fools would do that? But then I was like, but if it is one of the guys I know, they already have my number. So what can I lose, man? You know what I mean? So I sent the number, and Fresh called me that day. He was actually in an airport, and we got talking about how he had heard my name a few times, and that I was making some noise on the East Coast for God, and that he was really impressed, and my name was on his heart, and he just felt like he should reach out, and that he wanted to help me out. And I remember my answer, bro, like, such a big-headed answer. Like, I still sometimes, like, laugh at myself, like, man, you was stupid, you almost messed up. My answer to him was, yo, I don't want to sign to nobody, I said, because right now I feel like I can go and I can do and go wherever God wants me to do and go. I said, but if I sign to somebody, then I got to go where you tell me to go and do what you tell me to do, and hope that God's talking to you about me. And I was like, that's too much pressure to put on a man. His answer was like, yo, bro, I don't want to own you, I want to help you. I was like, my bad. my bad. So anyway, we got talking, and he asked me what my goal was, and I guess I gave the right answers, man. I just told him I wanted to use the gift I have to do ministry, and I told him, like, I believe, like I said, there's people telling me all the time that God gives us the desires of our heart if we're seeking and serving him. I was like, well, I only really want one thing. I want to make music. That's all I want, you know. So it like I don't have 16 desires of my heart. Like if God's gonna give me the desires of my heart, I just want one, right? And so we got talking and he was just like, yo, I'm going on tour. He said, I want to do an album for you. I was like, do an album for me. Tell me the rest of the story. You know what I mean? My first commercial album was called U-Turn. It kind of my name ties into that. So 180 represents, you know, turning my life around, doing the U-turn. Um, and that album, he 100% produced the whole album, gave me a feature on it so that I would have, you know, he was just fresh off Grammys and Junos and everything else. So it had his name on it, which was powerful, you know, and he marketed it, he pressed it up, he did all of the work, man, and didn't charge me a cent for it. In fact, flew me out to Winnipeg to actually work on it. And when we were done, he was like, now you want to know what all that costs? And I was like, what? He's like, do it for somebody else. And I was like, dang, like that's just so that was my first kind of interaction with somebody who was really doing this big, but doing it for the right reasons and getting the right results. You know what I mean? Like doing the right things, man. And so yeah, I learned a lot from him, and we just been brothers ever since, man. Like I'm loyal to that guy, man. Like, you know, I just there's codes that I grew up with that, you know, even as a believer, I hold on to. And some of those, man, are, you know, the people that really got you hold them down too. And to this day, I mean, that was 2004, I think. And to this day, man, he's never ever strayed from having my back, man, and being there for me when I need advice or when I just need a brother to talk to. Or shoot, when my granddaughter was born, he was one of the first people I called. Was fresh, you know what I mean? Like we're that close, right? And so that's really how I got started. He took me on tour with him. I got to see how ministry was really done, you know, on a grand scale. We were at one point, the team was at one point called the Reach Records of Canada, man. Like the way we were going, like, you know, we were knocking out albums. Like as a team, everybody was just putting out fire albums, you know, and then every time we'd put out another album, he'd come out with something that was better than all of us, to whatever we put out. And so then we'd have to go back to the drawing board and get better. And you know what I mean? Like it was iron sharpening iron constantly, you know what I mean? And so the artists that come out of that, like you got Scribe Music, is a Canadian artist who's just on fire. You know what I mean? He was on that team. You know what I mean? We had Tony Cote on that team. We had Artisan, who's out of Ottawa. We had, like, it was just a crazy, crazy solid team. You know what I mean? Brother War was on that team. Yeah, like it was just nuts, man. And like a lot of fire came out of that. An artist named Elevate was a man, like there's a list, man, but it was just solid. And that, so that's what got me into it. And then I realized that of all of us that were on that team, I was the only one on the East Coast, like out here. And so I was just like, well, now I'm going harder because I got to build something that, you know what I mean? Like, because every church you go to, you talk to these young artists and, you know, they have these dreams of making music, but they're stuck inside their church doing it. And you ask them, you know, well, why don't you pursue it? And the answer is always the same. I might either have no experience or I'd have to move away to do it. And so my new mission became, I got to prove that that's not true. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, that's how I got into it, man. That's how I started taking it serious. And like, I, I've done a lot of work, but God has really had his hand in there every single step of the way. You know what I mean? It's been pretty special.
Amen, amen. That's an awesome story. And you know, I was kind of thinking like how important it is like to have these godly people around us, right? Like you mentioned, Fresh and stuff, and even Mark in the program when you were with him. Mark is someone who I know from my time. He was the director of London, and yeah, he gave me. I was gonna get kicked out of the program actually, and he gave me a second chance when I didn't deserve it. So I wouldn't be here without him giving me that other chance. So I just thought that was kind of cool that you mentioned that. Even you know, almost 10 years apart, one person had such a profound impact on both of us who have
Yeah.
never met before then, right? So
That's so I can't wait to send this when you share the link. I'm actually gonna send it to him direct, man, because he should hear that. He should hear what you just said, man. I think that you know, we need to be very mindful of giving the people who impact our lives their flowers while they're still here to get them. you know, and yeah, so I'm gonna make sure that he hears that from both of us, because he really, you know, he impacted some godly soldiers, man.
Amen. Amen. For sure. Yeah. Mark, we wish you all the best with Pioneer. And we thank you for what you did for us. But just to kind of switch gears a bit, I know we are talking about the Christian rap game, but I know you mentioned earlier that the secular rap game had such a profound impact on you. And I feel the same way, right? Like I grew up just outside of Toronto, and I grew up listening to these guys, you know, like Robin Banks and, you know, these sort of like up top movement, all gang affiliation, all this stuff, right?
Yep.
And I look at the state of the city, and I look at how much problems rap is causing, right? Like I don't know if you know Top Five, but he's like one of the most prominent rappers in Toronto. He's like just starting to blow up on academic streams on Twitch and stuff, and just got arrested for him and his boys, you know, killing an innocent person, someone with no gang affiliations, not in the game at all. You know, he's possession of fentanyl with the intent to distribute. And there's these kids, and they're growing up and they're watching it, and they're seeing this, and they're seeing that, like you said, the only way to make it out of my hood is to shoot a jump shot or to sell crack, right? And so how much of an impact do you think that rap has on perpetuating these issues of, you know, addiction and violence and, you know, glorifying this stuff? And is there anything that can be done without losing what makes hip hop hip hop?
Yeah, yeah. I think this. First of all, I got to say this is a great question, because I have this conversation a lot, but it's never asked. It's always somebody making a statement that, you know, hip hop is bad because, you know, and then I kind of go into the same answer I'm about to give you. But it's not from a question standpoint. And I really appreciate that you asked it. Um, I believe fully that if, first of all, yes, I do agree that, you know, hip hop is, it's an amplifier, um, to a lot of, you know, what some people actually do go through. But I also know that just like sex, gangsta sells. You know, and so those are predominant things that even if you don't live that lifestyle, that, you know, they impact. And so the impact on young people and on the community, not just young people, just in general, is, you know, is humongous. Like there's artists, you know, secular artists I grew up on that to this day have had an impact on me, man. And I can't slide out of that. Like that just is what it is. So there's no doubt that hip hop and any kind of music genre, depending on what you listen to, is very, very powerful and very impactful. But I also believe that, you know, anything that the devil can use to tear down people, God can use to build them up. In fact, God can use it double. God can use it, you know, way stronger, you know. Like there was, I think it was probably 2006, where I charted for about 8 months with Christian music, um in a secular hip hop genre, you know. And so for me, it wasn't even like, that wasn't even the part that I celebrated, was that I was charting there. For me, what I was celebrating was people listen to what's number one. You know what I mean? And here we were on the secular chart in Canada, and we were flowing number one for like, it was a long time. You know what I mean? With this song. And then I did what I called 180 Wednesdays. And that was one of my most successful thing going. So what I would do with 180 Wednesdays was I would take a secular track and actually just flip it. Like take that instrumental and just do something on it. And sometimes I wouldn't even change the style. Like I would actually rap like the artist rapped and just change the words. You know what I mean? And like, and that got crazy impact. Like what I would be, and so I would perform those songs at shows, and like you could see the youth getting all hyped up once the beat starts. You know what I mean? Like for example, the games, This Is How We Do. Like I redid that one, right? And like the track would start, and they'd be like, "Oh!" And then I start rapping. They're like, "Wait a minute, what what is this?" Right? Um, and so I do believe that, like I believe strongly that, you know, but even if we step away from the Christian music part of it, like there's a song that actually just came out of Toronto, man, where a bunch of Toronto artists got together. One of them, Jordan, he's a good buddy of mine from down here. It was called "Wish I Could," and it was, it was a song basically coming against the gun violence in Toronto. You know what I mean? And actually, like, was really powerful song, man. And they marketed it right so that people were getting to hear it. You know what I mean? It was getting distributed to the right places and all of that. And and I know the artists on that song weren't believers. You know what I mean? I know that wasn't the intent. You know what I mean? Their issue wasn't an ungodly world. Their issue was, man, like, these kids are getting shot up out here, and we need to do something about it. And you can march, you can post online, you can do all of those things, man, and they're all fine and good. Don't get me wrong. They're all fine and good. But you can reach a bigger crowd and a lot more people if you have a gift of music and you use that. You know what I mean? And so, like, I take it as a fun challenge, to be honest with you, that, I know that my God is more powerful than anybody else who's doing this. And so, and I know, like I said, I'm not one of those fake humble people. Like, I know that I'm talented. I know that he gave me a gift. And so, brother, I've tried to retire 3 times, man. And then the feeling I get every time, or every time I spend some time with the Lord, is that you're not done yet. You can't be done, because the enemy is still working. You still have a gift. We got to go. And so that's kind of been the thing. So, like, even the last 2 albums I did, Ventilation 1 and Ventilation 2, those have been, cries. Like, we've covered everything from racism to, to violence, to, to poverty, to, fatherlessness, like all of those subjects, you know what I mean? Pornography, like, we covered everything on these last 2 albums. Because these last 2 albums, in my opinion, weren't for the church. They were directly intended to take out into the street and say, like, people who like good music will listen to good music regardless of content. That's a fact, man. That's a fact. I mean, it's an unfortunate fact, because I'm going to be 100% with you. I listen to some music I probably shouldn't, because people who love good music will listen to good music regardless of content. And so, just because, like, I tell young artists all the time, like, people will say, what does it take to be a good Christian artist? And I was like, first thing is, don't ever think that because you're a Christian artist, that gives you the right to suck. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta come with it, because if your mission is to, so let me put it to you this way. I truly believe that myself and Drake are going after the exact same audience. So I have to be on point, because he's talking about things that people can see, and they're very enticing. They're very, you know what I mean? They're attention seeking. They feel good. They're those things, right? You know what I mean? Here I'm talking about this person that wants to change your life and wants to come into your heart and take over. And you know what I mean? So skill and talent wise, like, I got to make sure that when I'm in the studio that I'm really getting it in, because when I go to an event, or I perform at a festival, those same kids, or same people, or whoever that I'm performing for, have already heard what he put out, or what the world has put out, or what the world has offered them. You know what I mean? And my job is to show up and bring what I can give, and then God does the rest, man. And I've seen great results from it, man. Like, there's like, there's awards back on that shelf that shouldn't be there. You know what I mean? There's I don't even know, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's 10 albums, man. You know what I mean? Like, those shouldn't be there, right? But I mean, if you use your gift properly, you work at your craft, then you can impact people. You know what I mean? And I believe that with my whole heart. And I just think that, yeah, you're 100% right. Like, the world has really thrown a tough wrench at these young people with through music and through hip hop, man. Like, these rappers some of these young rappers, man, are feeling like, I don't know. I'll say this. I know I keep switching it up, but because I want to make sure I get the point through, right? You take an artist like Jay-Z, forget what he believes. That's not what I'm here to talk about on this one, right? But you take his art from day one, from the Reasonable Doubt album to the 444 album, and you see this guy has grew up in his music, right? And what happened is, while that was happening, somebody decided that, no, we don't want that. We want to still, you know what I mean? We want to make sure, because as long as we can keep these people partying, as long as we can keep them high, as long as we can keep them drunk, you know what I mean? Then we can actually, you know, make news out of them. We can make stories out of them. And then and so that's where you get your, you know, you get your 6ix9ines and you get your, you know what I mean? You get your, like, that's where these guys come from, because, you know, it's tailored to them to be able to, like, I use him as an example all the time when I'm talking to people. I'm like, you know, imagine your worst internet troll, right? And then make it a musician, right? And that's what we get. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of the things that some of these guys do is just to create response. You know what I mean? Cause and effect, I guess. You know, whatever. And they do these things so that they can get the shock value in, and people will respond. But what's happening is the damage isn't collateral anymore. Like, people are dying behind this thing. People are ODing on these drugs. Like, you know what? You know when I knew that this war was bigger than me was when a song went #1 and stayed there for 2 months, and the whole song, all it said was Molly Percocet. Bro, that's when I knew we were in a real fight. You know what I mean? But one of the things I also do, man, is when I'm performing in a church or something, I actually ask people, and I say, like, yo, tell me this. How many people in here would be honest and raise your hand and say you're not a hip hop fan? And you'd be amazed. Like, people will be like, I'll be, no, do it. Be honest with me. And then you'll get first, it'll be some old person who brought their grandkid, right? They'll go first. Yeah, I don't even want to be here, but you know what I mean? And then a few other people will start putting their hands up. And I always respond with, you know what? I don't like it either, but I can't sing or play a guitar. So here's what you get. You know what I mean? This is how I worship God. And what happened is I was able to cross between the people who knew me from the neighborhood, who knew I could rap, you know what I mean, who would listen because of that and then get the message. And then I was also to bring in, you know, the people who were in the church who accepted that, look, man, all I'm doing is worshiping God. If you believe in God, then this, you know, this is for you, you know? And so and then it kind of created this thing where now when things happen in our communities, like, I'm able to speak on them, and I get respect from both sides, you know, and I'm able to communicate that with, bro, that's all from music. So to answer your question, yeah, I think I think hip hop music does a lot of damage, but I also think it's done a lot of good, man. I've been able to reach a lot of, man, we've had over 4,000 people make first time decisions for Christ at shows that we've done. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, to Billy Graham, that ain't a big number, but to old Tia Bailey from Halifax, that's a big deal. You know what I mean? Like, you know, so I really, you know, I take that in stride. Yes, but again, we have a very real enemy, man, who's fighting a very real fight, and I respect him as an opponent, you know, and so, all right, cool. If that's what we're doing, then let's do it, you know, and I'll do my part and see where we land at the end. But so far, so good, man. God has kept me relevant. God has kept me in the game. God has kept me still being able to reach people even through a pandemic. God has kept me, you know, I own the studio. God has blessed me with what I have, you know, in my family. Like, God is everywhere through this thing, man. I've had great jobs that I've gotten. Like I told you, I don't even have a high school diploma, but everything that I've gotten in life after the program has been because people know me as 180 first. So they know they can trust me. They know they can count on me. They know the artist, you know? And so, yeah, I think that hip hop music can do great things without losing the, bro, check out my Ventilation 2 album and just click on Jesus Is. Like, when you hear like that song, come on, bro, that's real hip hop. You know what I mean? That didn't lose any of it. And the title's Jesus Is. They got Jesus in the title. And people are still like, yo, that song, man, yo, that Jesus Is song. I had a buddy I grew up with, man, still gangster, bro. still gangster. And he actually, yo, that Jesus is song? I know, right? so yeah, no, I think that you're right, but I also think that, you know, there's great opportunity for God to use hip hop the same way the enemy has, and God will get much bigger results out of it.
Amen, for sure. Wow, what you've given me a lot to think about, and I'm sure you've given everyone watching this, especially those of us who are hip hop fans, a lot to think about. I think that's a good place to leave it if you're cool with that, unless there's anything else you wanted to add.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to say that, like, I'm really excited about what Touch by Addiction is doing, man. Like, this is a big deal, man. Like, you know, I'm all for anything that takes away people's excuses to go. So if the excuse is, well, I just don't have the money, well, we're doing something about that, you know. So however I can be used, however I can be a vessel. I mean, I already told Adam I'm gonna get a song done. You know what I mean, representing for TBA. Shoot a video for it, wearing the gear. You got to get me one of them hats, though. I told him that. I sent him that message today. I don't know who got the message. I need one of them hats, and I'll shoot the video with the hat on. But yeah, no, man, I just really think that what you guys are doing is great, and I want to use, you know, my platform and the gift that I've been given to kind of try to stretch that out a little more, man. And people know about my connection to the program already, so it won't be a hard sell. You know what I mean? So keep doing what y'all are doing, man. Keep going with this, and if there's anything I can do to help, like if y'all need like intros for the thing, or you know what I mean, you need some kind of quick little music intro to start the shows going forward, or whatever, man. You just say the word, man. I'm here for you. I'm on Team TBA, bro.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, if you're watching this, you heard it here first. We got the 180 stamp of approval on the new hats. They should be live on the website any day now, and we'll be sure to let you know. Keep an eye on our social media. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.